Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Other CEDH, where the C stands for casual. We're by no means competitive. Nope, on this channel we're all about fun and casual kitchen table Magic the Gathering. Thank you so much for joining us. A big thank you to all of our viewers who tuned in to the newest Commander Spotlight episode, and because we had so much fun doing it, we gonna do it all over again. Sorry, I promise no more funny accents from here on out. Actually, I'm wrong. I can't promise that sort of thing. Anyway, seeing as how the new Theros set is right around the corner, we're going to dive in and hit you all with another new Commander Spotlight, guys. These are so much fun to do, so we're doing another one. Last time we looked at a big, angry red bastard with the new Polukranos, bronze-blooded, and it just occurred to me that calling Polukranos big, red, and angry is kind of redundant because I think almost all mono-red commanders are big, red, and angry. Anyway, today we are going to shy away from mono-red masochism and move into Golgari grave-robbing goodness. That's right, today we're going to construct a cacophony of chaos and carnage with a crude character who is all about counters. Today we're going to take a look at Polukranos, Unchained. Polukranos is actually a character that appeared in the original Theros block with Polukranos World Eater, a mono-green Hydra that had kind of a cool effect, but in my personal opinion didn't really seem all that great as a commander. But you guys, I actually think that the design of this card is really super smart. It carries over the original spirit of Polukranos World Eater. It adds another color into the mix, which I really like, and his abilities are sort of a nod to the original Polukranos, but with a fun new twist that I think is really interesting and really smart. Polukranos Unchained is 2 black-green for a legendary creature zombie Hydra, and holy shit is that sentence a lot of fun to say out loud. He says Polukranos enters the battlefield with 6+1/+1 counters on it. It escapes with 12+1/+1 counters on it instead. If damage would be dealt to Polukranos while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. He has an activated ability for 1 black-green. Polukranos fights another target creature and escape 4 black-green and exile 6 other cards from your graveyard. For those of you that need a little refresher course real quick, Escape is a new mechanic from Theros Beyond Death that reads a little like this, and I will use Polukranos as an example here. Basically what happens is that by paying 4 black-green and exiling 6 other cards from your graveyard, you can cast Polukranos from your graveyard. Now guys, I honestly think that this is a really cool mechanic that this set comes just a little bit short of utilizing to its full potential, but I think it's going to be really cool to see how people brew this mechanic in decks that utilize multiple colors, especially in color combinations that want graveyard recursion, and also in decks that care about sacrifice matters effects. But we're not here to dive into the complexities of the escape mechanic, we're here to talk about Polukranos himself, so let's dive right into it. And guys, before I talk about any builds, any cards, any cool interactions that this commander may have, I simply have 2 words for you, and those words are Corpse Jack, Menace. Yeah, 2 words. 3 words? On the card it's 2 words, but I guess it could technically be 3? Okay, 2 words. Anyway, Corpse Jack Menace says that if 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. Guys, if you have Corpse Jack Menace and you pay the escape cost for Polukranos, he comes in with 24 +1/+1 counters. Then Prowler's Helm, and you're dead. And I realize that I have just painted a very Voltron scenario here, and that would be a really easy way to build this deck, and we will go into that here in just a little bit, but I think that there are a lot of other really cool and fun ways that you could build this. The first build that we are going to take a look at is going to be a Turbo Mill build. You are obviously going to want a bunch of cards in your graveyard so that you can utilize the escape mechanic. So let's see how we're going to abuse this. And being in black and green, there are plenty of ways to abuse a full graveyard. Stitcher Supplier will mill you for 3 upon entering the battlefield or dying, and Hermit Druid, while just a tad bit pricey, would be perfect for this build as well. See the Unwritten is perfect in a deck like this, and I have no idea how the hell this card is only 57 cents. And Satyr Wayfinder is a perfect inclusion here, ensuring that you hit your land drops and also filling up your bin as well. Perpetual Timepiece is great here, not only because it will mill you for 2, but will also help to recycle your graveyard if you're in a bind. And Elixir of Immortality can get you out of a bind if your graveyard gets a little too full as well. Rot Farm Skeleton is a great mana sink if you get a little too flooded, as is Sands of Delirium, which will help fill your graveyard in a big hurry. The beauty of this build is that it has no problem closing out a game. Do you want to go with a more Voltron approach? You could add something like Night Howler for that quick commander damage KO. Or you can even throw in a Mortivore if you can find a way to give him trample, which being in black and green you should have no problem doing. Do you want to go for a more mill style approach? Add in things like Altar of Dementia and Mind Crank to this deck, and I guarantee your friends won't call you anymore. Both of these are particularly brutal when put together because not only can you deal a ton of damage to someone, but with Mind Crank, you're making them mill for the damage that they took. Not only that, but then after they take the damage, you can sacrifice Polukranos to the Altar of Dementia to make them mill even more cards. Oh my god, I feel bad about suggesting that anybody build this deck this way. Splinter Fright would also be a great inclusion in this deck, as would Mortal Kombat, because seriously, who doesn't love alternate win conditions? Lord of Extinction can either swing for lethal once all bins are full, or can be sacrificed to Altar of Dementia, which is gross all on its own. I know, I've seen it happen. And Jared Golgari Lichlord is like a fling or thud effect in black and green, which can one-shot an entire table. You guys put Jared in this deck. You would obviously also want to look into your Dredge cards if you are going with a self-mill build. Necroplasm would be an awesome inclusion in a build like this, and I'm going to immediately file this into my How in the Hell is this card so cheap file. I realize there are only a few places where this sort of effect would be good, but seeing as how we are dealing with self-mill and +1/+1 counters, there is absolutely no reason not to include this. Stinkweed Imp is both a potent powerhouse and a choice chump blocker. It has flying, so it can block pretty much anything. And while it doesn't say specifically that it has Death Touch, the text basically reads as such. Shambling Shell is also a good bit of utility that cross-synergizes with both our self-mill and +1/+1 counter plan very nicely. And Golgari Grave Troll is another card that fits both categories quite nicely as well. You guys, it amazes me how many good cards there are for this type of build, and this is actually only the first of the builds that we are going to look at. And the beautiful thing about building a self-mill/turbo mill build is that there are so many ways that you could spin this and really kind of tinker with it and really make it your own. Do you want to lean more into graveyard recursion? Maybe you want to lean on the +1/+1 counter synergies a little more. You could even build this with a sort of Lands Matter sub-theme, running things like Life from the Loam, which is a tad expensive, so please keep that in mind. And even things like Dakmor Salvage would be good here as well. World Shaper and Splendid Reclamation would be obvious includes here as well, digging all land cards that you've milled out of your graveyard and putting them back on the battlefield. And Ramanop Excavator and Crucible of Worlds are also cards that you would want to run in this build, letting you play lands out of your graveyard. Crucible of Worlds, I believe, is still a tad expensive again, so please keep that in mind. Okay, I really feel like we're starting to go off the rails here a little bit. I'm really excited about this kind of build. I think it's really cool, but there are other builds that we need to talk about as well, so let's go straight into the next one. I feel like there might be a really cool style of Aristocrats build here as well, and in order to build in this direction, we would want to look at things like Momentous Fall and Life's Legacy. Momentous Fall lets you sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to its power and gain life equal to its toughness, and Life's Legacy does the exact same thing minus the life gain effect. Greater Good is a green enchantment that will let you sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then discard 3 cards, which are both things that we really want to do, drawing a ton of cards to give us more gas and filling our bin so that we can utilize the escape mechanic on Polukranos. Ghoul Caller Gisa would be a fun card to include here, again rather pricey, so please keep that in mind. And Rite of Consumption is a weird black fling effect with some life gain attached to it, so I guess go ahead and throw that in here as well. Zathrid Demon and Ooze Garden would be fun includes in this build as well. Zathrid Demon delivering a massive shot right to the dome of each of your opponents, and Ooze Garden gives you a massive token that you can use to beat everyone's faces with. Obvious finishers for this sort of build would be things like your Jared Golgari Lichlord that we talked about in the previous segment, and you could even run things like Psychosis Crawler and Diviner's Wand. These would be really fun and nifty ways to close out a game if you're in this sort of build. Also, a quick note about builds like this: if you are going to run things like Greater Good and Momentous Fall, you're either going to want to include a few cards that give you no maximum hand size, such as Reliquary Tower or Spellbook, Spellbook being an absolute favorite of mine. I run it in a lot of my decks. Or if you so desire, you could leave those effects out and rely on the fact that you are discarding lots of cards every single turn so that you can power up your graveyard to make use of that escape mechanic. You could really go either way here. I'm going to leave that up to you guys. That's just something to keep in the back of your head. The other painfully obvious and painfully boring way to build this would be to go straight up Voltron. Also guys, please make a note that when I say painfully boring, I don't mean that the Voltron archetype itself is bad, because I don't necessarily think that it is. I just feel like there are so many other cool directions to take this particular commander that I kind of feel like stacking as many counters as you can onto Polukranos and one-shotting someone, to me, maybe feels like a bit of a cop-out. However, I know that there are people out there that are going to build him this way, and I don't want those people to feel left out. Also, those people are in no way incorrect or wrong if they want to build their deck this way. Part of the beauty of this game is the freedom that it allows you to build your deck however you see fit. If you are going in a Voltron direction, I really like Shape of the Wittigo and Evolutionary Escalation here because they put a lot of +1/+1 counters on Polukranos all at once. Ordeal of Nylea doesn't have a good home in a lot of decks, but if you're in a +1/+1 counters Voltron build, this is absolutely a card you should be running. It's a fantastic piece of ramp in a deck like this, and the Phyrexian Scriptures, I feel, is a criminally underplayed saga that has a nice bit of utility here as well. Soul's Might would be awesome here as well, essentially doubling the number of +1/+1 counters on Polukranos, and increasing Savagery would be a powerhouse here as well. It is a little bit mana intensive to flash it back, but you're in green, so you're obviously not going to have a problem with ramp. Obviously, if you are going full Voltron, you are putting all your eggs in one basket, so you are going to want some ways to protect your pumped and powered pal Polukranos. I'm really sorry, I know that bit of alliteration was a bit of a stretch, but whatever. Anyway, Aspect of Mongoose and Alpha Authority would be great. Budget it includes in this build. Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves are obvious choices if you don't mind forking over a little more cash. I honestly thought the Lightning Greaves getting reprinted in the new Commander set might help drop the price a little bit. It's still up there a little ways. It's definitely not what many people would quote-unquote call budget, but it is still not a bad way to go. If you decide to go the Voltron route, you're going to want to make sure that Polukranos can get through, so you would want to run things like Prowler's Home, Key to the City, and Suspicious Bookcase, all of which make Polukranos nigh unblockable. If you're not running these cards in your Voltron builds, guys, I'm sorry, but you're just not doing it right. Key to the City also has the added benefit of drawing you a card if you pay 2 when it untaps. I know that's a little mana intensive for just one card, but we will take any kind of card draw that we can get. Alright, damn, that was a lot of stuff to get through, but I think that finally does it for this episode of our Commander Spotlight featuring Polukranos Unchained. You guys, I am absolutely thrilled to build around this commander. I like everything that is going on here. I love Golgari colors. I love digging around in the graveyard. You see what I did there? Digging around in the graveyard. Sorry, total dad joke moment. Anyway, you could build this guy in any of the directions I have outlined above. I honestly think that if I was to build this, I would go in the Turbo Mill direction just because I think it's the most fun and interesting way to build this commander. You guys can really go in whatever direction you like, and if any of you build this guy once Theros Beyond Death comes out, I would really love to see what you guys put together, because I feel like this is going to be one of the better commanders from this set. And so that brings us to the end of the show rigmarole. As always, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter. Feel free to reach out and say hello. Also, as always, big thanks to our buddy Dan Jones, our proofreader extraordinaire. And also a big thanks to Jacob Darby at Darbyskull Studio, who taught us everything we know about audio and is the sole reason why the audio on this show no longer sucks. Once again, my name is Eric, this is the other CEDH, and we will see you guys next time.